Hey, Cincinnati. Welcome to another episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk, a very special episode. Cincinnati wasn't playing. We don't have a game to talk about there, but U.S. men's national team was playing. We still got a lot of soccer to talk about. And when you get these three guys in a room, you've got a lot of soccer to talk about. We've got hosts from Talking Tactics, hosts from Jersey Swap, and hosts from Cincinnati Soccer Talk here on the program tonight. It's going to be a fun one. Let's get into it. My name's Brian, hosting the show. I'm here with Coach from Talking Tactics. He's been part of Cincinnati Soccer Talk all season, but since we got Jeff on, Coach, I'm going to introduce you as the host of Talking Tactics. Welcome.
I appreciate
back to Cincinnati Soccer Talk.
That's a throwback. Maybe I'll get back to doing that show eventually. I hope so, but for now, I'll just be a bit player in a larger grand scheme.
We'd love to have you. And Jeff Tebbett's here from Jersey Swap. We were talking pre-show that this might be your first time on the Monday night show this year, maybe once early on.
It's hard to tell. I mean, I'm used to the pattern of coming in on Wednesdays and getting everything set in the space and recording and it pushing it out the door for Thursday or Friday mornings. So it feels weird. I mean, weird to the point that I've sort of rearranged my setup here, and let's see how this tries out. And maybe I'll get some of the really good roasts that I get from Coach every now and then. I remember the plaid suit roast that you gave me a few years ago. That was awesome.
Oh, I can't wait. I hope it's coming. I think Coach has probably been saving up, waiting for this opportunity because Jeff has not been on the show with us yet this season. So we'll get into that as the show goes. We want to thank our sponsor, Apollo Home, before we get too far into this show. Your orange and blue are back in action this weekend, so perhaps you should turn your attention to your HVAC. We've had some outrageously hot summer days, so there's a good chance it needs the rest. And TLC, give Apollo Home a call, send them a text, or schedule online at apollohome.com. All right, guys, we obviously don't have a Cincinnati game to talk about this last weekend, so we've kind of opened up our best and worst. There's been a lot of international soccer going on, still a lot of even lower league soccer going on that I've been following in a different way. Let's get into our best and worst and just broaden it to soccer across the board. Jeff, let's start with you.
All right. I mean, I usually start worst, but I'll start with best. And I think this sort of hits me in the feels because, if you know me, my talents sort of take me to speaking Japanese, translating for a living. So my best is the Asian teams that are performing right now going into the World Cup. I mean, maybe it's the fact that they've gotten all of their third round qualifications out of the way. And so teams like South Korea, Japan, Australia, they're already qualified. They can rest the right people and then play the correct people. They're playing really well. South Korea with the win, of course, against the United States. Japan got a draw against Mexico. Australia's playing really well. Even Indonesia, of all the teams out there, a 6-0 whitewashing against Chinese Taipei in the friendlies here. They have a possibility of qualifying. I think they have to go through the likes of Iraq and Saudi Arabia to do it. But this is going to be great. Asia might have a legitimate stake in this World Cup. Granted, 48 teams, that's different. Worst, St. Louis City, I'm looking at you. I mean, I understand that this is international break weekend and maybe, the headlines aren't on you guys and you're going through changes with your coach and your sporting director's gone. You took how many shots against Dallas? A 10-man Dallas? 42 shots in this game? And you drew 1-1? What are they serving in that beer in St. Louis? Come on, guys. I thought you were bad this year, but not that bad. That's my worst. I mean, it's not going to get any worse than that this week.
It reminds me a bit of a team we all follow that plays against teams sometimes down a man that doesn't put a ball in the back of the net. Maybe not 42 shots. That's crazy. I did not see that stat. I know there are a lot. I didn't see 42 shots, Jeff. Holy cow.
I think Dallas had one shot on goal in the second half because they were, playing defensively. And I think it was like 23 for St. Louis. I don't think we get 23 in 2 games sometimes. So
right.
It's pretty impressive numbers to throw up nothing.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's bad. That's bad. And to your point, the Asian teams, to your best point, right? The Asian teams playing well does get me really excited about the competition coming into the World Cup, except the team that's not playing well, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is our team, the United States, right? We'll save that conversation for later. Coach, I'll pass it to you for your best and worst.
Well, now my best is Jeff taking St. Louis City behind the woodshed with a little shade, because when the minute those guys released their branding with the all capital city, I was like, this team I'm going to hate forever officially, because that was just the dumbest thing ever. So, but no, I actually have a real best, which is Kai Kamara getting a goal. I talked about last week how FC Cincinnati is the only team that's ever been able to stop Kai Kamara. Unfortunately, he happens to play for them, but he finally got a goal playing for Sierra Leone. It was a really good one. You should go look it up if you haven't. It was basically a header from outside the top of the box, where the assist came from the defensive half, because it was just a long ball heaved into the middle, and he rose up like a killer whale catching some air out of the ocean about to slam into some rich guy's yacht, and just headed the thing over the goalkeeper. It was a thing of beauty. And so good for you, Kai. Now come back home and do a little bit for us.
We have the pattern. We have the blueprint how to get Kai Kamara to score. Just Miazga send the ball out of the back and just let him go for it.
Yeah, get it launched. Do it. And my worst is going to be FC Cincinnati's U.S. international players just getting no love. Not only did a guy like Miles Robinson not see the field much when he was with the last camp, even though I think at this point in their careers, he, to me, is pretty clearly better than Tim Ream, is better 1v1 defender, much faster, better in the air. It's like the only thing where Tim Ream might pip him just a bit is on the ball. And clearly Freudian slip. Clearly, the U.S. need a player who can defend. But now you have a guy like Roman Celentano, who I'm not expecting him to go win the number one job, but he's not even getting talked about. Like, even on Soccer Wise today, they were talking about the goalkeeper battle, and they didn't mention Roman. It was like he wasn't there. They talked about Klinsmann and Freeze. And, Freeze did not have a good game. Like, he got beat from a bad angle with a really good shot from Son, but he went down too quickly. And then he gave up what would have been a penalty by recklessly diving into Son's feet, other than the fact that South Korea scored, so it wasn't called. So, I would love to see Roman get a chance. And Freeze was terrible on the ball, too. He sent a couple long balls straight out of bounds. So, we know Roman can do that. So those guys just get no love. I'm not expecting them to go win starting jobs, but, at least being in the conversation.
His charge out of net to challenge Son on that second goal was so slow, and I think he was depending on the defenseman to pick up the slack there. But we'll talk about it more. But that was just a poor performance in the first half.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm going to get to some in the chat. Jose is on vacation in the Upper Peninsula in Michigan, still joining us tonight. Says his best is FCC presence in international games, not necessarily for the United States, as we've talked about. And his worst is MLS lame response to Miami's antics in the League's Cup final. We will talk about that for sure later in the show. Rupesh is in the chat, says his best is he's not a Spurs fan. And his worst is U.S. men's national team having no clue what they're doing. Again, something we're going to talk about later on in the show. My best, guys, since we didn't have a Cincinnati game to follow, I've been doing, as you know, this Fort Wayne Footy podcast up here, and I've been diving into USL League One because this is all new for Fort Wayne. And man, I'll tell you, Jeff, you're wearing the hat. You're rocking the hat tonight. Portland Hearts of Pine. I love the branding in USL 1. It feels like they've got a little bit more creative. They've got some more freedom to do what they want to do, to represent their local teams, their local flair in these brands. I love it. We did a USL League One crest ranking show for our podcast up here. Is a ton of fun, and just to hear the stories of these teams, love it. My worst is, again, the U.S. men's national team, except my worst, maybe it's my best. I don't know. I didn't get to see it live. We had other things going on Saturday because Cincinnati didn't have a game for me to plan my evening around. And I missed the U.S. men's national team. So again, maybe that's a lame worst, and it's more of a best because I didn't have to suffer through the full 90 like Coach did as we talked earlier. So anyway, let's get into that game a little bit more since we've kind of danced around it tonight. 2-0 loss to South Korea, a good South Korea team. And we could talk about the starting 11, but I want to back this up a little bit before we get to the starting 11. What about the roster build in general? Like the guys they called in, some of the guys that were left out, no Weston McKennie. We've got some, Christian Pulisic's back. We've got Serginho Dest back. So we've got some familiar faces from previous U.S. teams that were pretty decent, and we're missing some significant guys. Yunus Musa's not there. Surprised by this roster. I know there's some rumors going around about why so-and-so's not there or whatever, but is this the best roster that we could have put together for this September camp?
Not at all. I mean, I think this roster, it's just a symptom and result of having too much time on your hands, I think. Getting Pochettino as the head coach was a master class to get him, to convince him that this is a project that he deserves to pay attention to, but they got him in very late. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe the thinking was, well, we don't have to go through qualifiers. We don't have to worry about the pressure of qualifying for this World Cup. But at the same time, because of that, everything seems to have been pushed back and delayed. We've got rosters that are still very much in flux. We've got players that really haven't shown up, whether it's voluntarily or involuntarily. And because of that, we don't have the optimum roster build that we need. And at this point, you're looking at the likes of South Korea and Japan, the teams that we're going to play. They're pretty much done. They've got the players that they need on the pitch when they need them, barring any injuries. We're going to be seeing a very strong Japanese team on Tuesday in Columbus. Mm-hmm. We don't have that luxury right now.
Yeah. Yeah, when you have such little time between now and when the World Cup starts, like you want to have your guys building rhythm and chemistry in your system and what you want them to do. It's a pretty well-known fact that international soccer, you can't get really dense with your tactics because you don't have a lot of times with the guys on the pitch. Mm-hmm. But as a coach, you might want certain pressing triggers, certain things that it's easier to get guys on a pitch and talk to them about than it is to send them video and be like, this is kind of what I want, but it's a little different when you're here or there. And so a guy like Weston McKennie, that is undoubtedly one of the best 11, probably undoubtedly one of the best 15 US players, though, to not be here and it just be like, well, we know what we have in Weston. He'll be fine. Like, I don't know that we know what we have in Weston in your system, Poch, because we haven't seen it yet, really. So I don't get leaving guys like that off the roster in order. It'd be different if there was like a really good reason or another really good player that you wanted to get a look at. But we know what guys like Sebastian Berhalter are. They're workhorses that are Poch guys, they're glue guys, whatever you want to say. But other than that, they don't bring a whole lot on the pitch. Berhalter was so confused for so much of that South Korea match. He was chasing shadows. He got so divided from Adams so many times. Mm-hmm. It was like you could have driven one of those yachts I talked about earlier that's getting smashed by the killer whales or whatever through the midfield in the US because Berhalter was, 20 or 30 yards out of position. And it's because he's a work hard guy. So he's working hard, but he's working too hard. Fine. He is not a World Cup caliber player yet. Maybe he'll get there. You know who is? Weston McKennie. Let's see him on the pitch. And he's the one guy we're talking about because he's the biggest name. But I think there's other names like that too, that even if they're not the best player, they're going to have a way higher likelihood of playing for you in 26 than some of the other guys that we're seeing, not only on the roster, but even starting games.
Yeah. We talked earlier this season about the need to get some MLS players in this roster because of, at least in CONCACAF competitions, because of the style of play here versus an open style of play in some of the European leagues, right? So we're not seeing necessarily a heavy MLS roster, but more MLS players in this one, in Diego Luna. We've got Tim Ream now, Nathan Harriel. We've got a couple goalkeepers, Max Arst, right? So we're not a heavy MLS roster, but more MLS guys getting in the mix. But are these even the best MLS players that, Miles Robinson is left off of this list? So while I like to see some MLS guys in this, I don't know that we've got the best guys in the league out there playing for us right now. Is it? Go
I
ahead,
think
Jeff.
you can argue that you've got a handful. Alex Freeman has really shown himself to be a really breakout player this season on defense. You can argue Sebastian Berhalter has done a really good job. Luca De La Torre has made the transition to San Diego pretty smoothly. But then you look at the likes of Arfston, Sean Zawadzki, who I believe is injured, is on this list. These are names that don't really move the needle for me. Not the ones that used to and that really could move the needle in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to put an MLS guy like Diego Luna on the field, I think is a really good call. He is a young, up-and-coming player that, one, can add something nobody else in the pool at times can add, or very few players can add.
Mm-hmm.
Two, even if he doesn't play a minute in the World Cup, if he's just there, it will be good for the next World Cup. Which I guess you could argue some for guys like Berhalter and Zawadzki. These guys are young too, Arfston, but the other ones that I just mentioned, not outside of Diego Luna, are guys that do not add anything that you don't already have. Right.
Mm-hmm.
If you want a guy who is pretty good going forward and really, really bad defensively, to play fullback, there's a bunch of those already in the pool. We saw Serginho Dest at times be that guy. So to have Max Arfston out there too, maybe it just speaks to how shallow that left back pool is. I don't know. But then Sean Zawadzki, I have no idea. I get Miles wasn't called in because he was coming off injury, so I sort of understand that. But I just think that I get the mix of MLS and Europe-based guys. That is decent. I'm fine with that. MLS, I think, is a good league. However, I think it's the wrong guys in the wrong positions.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit. The center back pairing, let's start there with Blackman and Ream. Tim Ream's name has come up quite a bit here. Jeff, your thoughts on that pairing in this system that the United States is playing right now?
I think it's a little disjointed. I mean, to say the least, between Blackman and Ream. The fact that Blackman this is his first cap with the team. He's going in raw, untested. Yeah, he's good in the sense that he can play both left and right center back position. But at the same time, like Ream is solid in his spot. And Blackman doesn't necessarily play right all the time. I think he's better at left. And you could sort of tell by the way that he was way out of position for that first goal from Son. You could argue that Son was a little offside, but they're not going to call that in a friendly. And then the second goal, it looked like Ream and Blackman switched so that Blackman was in his traditional spot, but Ream does not play right. In fact, Ream is better at left wing back than anything. So it felt very disjointed in the first half. Once they got Chris Richards in, who I felt should have been playing right center back, he is the man. He's the man that should really be next to Ream. In fact, I think he should be a captain on this team. Mm-hmm. I'll say it that much.
Ream, to me, I think it was a surprise was that last year he was called in to a competition and they're like, wow, Tim Ream is still being called in at his age. And the talk then was he's a great leader on the field, get him with some of these young and experienced guys. But I feel like we're past that. Like this may be Blackman's first cap, but we've got other guys that have had some experience with this team that maybe can lead a guy like Blackman in his first cap. Is Tim Ream's, I guess, is his leadership outweighing, like it's worth it to put him out there for that, even though maybe he's lost a step on some of these strikers and maybe he gets out of position a little bit more. Do we need him for that leadership or are we past that point right now?
What do you want a leader on the field to do? You want him to make sure guys are in position and not chasing the ball all over the place. You want to keep them settled so that they're not like getting into bad tackles and stuff. Keep spirits high. You want to make sure guys are putting forth full effort and grabbing guys by the collar if they're not. What are the complaints about this U.S. men's national team? They were running all over the place, completely out of position. His partner, Blackman, was constantly stepping too high when the ball was in the middle or the U.S. defensive third, which I'll talk about more in Talking Tactics. And the team looked like half the time they weren't really playing that hard. So, I guess that means for me the answer is a resounding no.
I think that's the argument that you bring Chris Richards in or Miles Robinson, who have this experience, who aren't don't need to be piloted around by Tim Ream, who probably has a lot of other hands in his basket that he has to worry about on the pitch.
Yeah.
Putting somebody out there raw like that, it was just bound to lead to this result.
Yeah. And to be fair, like Rupesh is saying, again, reminding us Miles was coming off of an injury, to be fair, this time, right? But the last time he was with the U.S. team, he didn't get any opportunities.
He played like 3 minutes at the end of the first game, if I remember.
Yeah. So it's not like he would have had time. I don't know that he would have had time if he was off an injury and coming in to camp, that he would have gotten that spot over Ream at all. So, all right. So we've got the center back pairing we talk a little bit about, back to Ream for a second. I remember when Charlotte was in town and beat Cincinnati a few weeks ago, right? All I wanted to see, Echenike was on his side of the field for 20 minutes or so. I just wanted to see them send balls and let Echenike run onto him, because Ream is not keeping up, and Cincinnati wasn't playing that tactic. But I think that's the thing that exposes Ream's weakness, is his position's good, but you got a guy that runs twice as fast as him. He's not, positioning doesn't matter at that point. And I think we're seeing that at a higher level now too.
I also don't think his positioning is that good. It's not elite. And so, like, when you have a guy that's not fast, he's got to have elite positioning. But you saw in the South Korea first goal, Tim Ream, Blackman was a little bit out of position, but Tim Ream did nothing to compensate. He needs to slide further towards the middle. You never want your center backs to be more than about 12 yards apart. And he should have dropped back. We're looking for that pass, dropped back. Instead, he's trying to pull Son offside, which great if it works. But if it doesn't work, it's a goal like 9 times out of 10. So that's a gamble you don't take in your 18-yard box, especially not in a World Cup. Would Ream have done that in a World Cup? Well, I guess practice like you play, or play in friendlies like you play. I mean, like, who knows? It was a bad decision from a player who I think is past his prime and was really good for a long time, but now is not one of the best 2 center backs in the U.S. pool.
And I'll settle in with Tim Ream and Echenike. As much as like that parallel can be made, it's still apples to oranges. I mean, this is MLS versus World Cup qualifier level material. And not to mention, and not to go too far into how Charlotte's made up, Addison Malanda is much better than what Tristan Blackman is able to give on this pitch.
Yeah. Let's go. The guys right behind those center backs. In goal, we had Matt Freese. It's been starting. It's kind of been the man for the United States for the last couple matches. We also have, we've got Celentano there, and we have Klinsmann back there as well. No Matt Turner in camp right now, who has kind of had that job for the last several years. I know people are calling for him, Matt Turner, out. Is Freese the guy moving forward, or have you seen enough of him at this level to say, let's see Celentano, let's see Klinsmann, but put your Cincinnati fandom aside?
Matt Freese is a guy. I mean, it's tough because, once again, apples to oranges. He's done a really good job with New York City. He plays for New York City. He plays in a non-FIFA regulated pitch. So I look at him being good in net. And then I don't know if that equates 1-to-1 with playing a FIFA regulated World Cup match. Granted, he's done well.
He plays more like a right fielder. Is that what you're saying?
You could say that. I mean, he's played really well against us. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're Pochettino, and this is his quote, this is the last camp to have the possibility for us to see new faces. At this point, Matt Freese is not a new face. If anything, for Pochettino, Matt Turner is a new face. Bring him in and see if he hasn't lost the rust going from Europe back to the Revolution. The fact he's going back to the Revolution should give him a lot more assurance. I mean, he's going back to something that should give him assurance that he played really well for that team. So why he's not with this team is it sort of makes me shake my head.
Yeah, Matt Turner's a gooner, so I think bravo Poch for leaving him out. Keep your Spurs roots true, my man. But beyond that, which obviously I'm kidding, if I was starting a team today and I had to pick between those 3 goalkeepers, I would pick Matt Freese. I think he is the best all-around goalkeeper at this moment. But what Jeff said, Poch makes these quotes like, now's the time to see new faces, but then he starts all these guys that we know not only what they are, but we've seen them playing in Poch with these other players over and over and over again, and they've done about the same. Arfston has not had a single game where he's been like, wow, he had a great game under Poch. And he's had a lot where it's like, wow, he was pretty dreadful. So like, I'd rather see a new guy there. I'd rather see a new goalkeeper rather than freeze over and over and over, whether that's Turner the Gooner or one of the other guys.
Do you think, on that note, we'll see one of the other guys on Tuesday against Japan, or do you think he's sticking with freeze until something else happens?
I don't think he's got confidence in Celentano. I think Celentano still needs a little bit of work under training camps. Honestly, I don't know enough of Klinsmann other than his last name. You're talking about being a Poch guy, and then you see a Klinsmann and a Berhalter in the lineup. So it's hard to really determine. I would have liked to, if not Turner, I'm like, what other could Zach Steffen have done anything? I don't know if Steffen's injured at the moment. Could they have brought him in? There's got to be some other guys if you wanted to try a possibility to see new faces.
If you want to see a new face, I think you give Celentano a chance. Give him an opportunity. I'd love to see, like, again, his shot stopping ability, I think, is great. We always talk about his distribution, balls out of the back. Are we dependent on a goalkeeper to do that at this level? In this system, I don't know. Maybe we are. I missed this last game, like I said, seeing it fully played out live. But if Freeze is kicking balls out of bounds, like you said, Coach, Celentano can do that. I'd like to see him get a nod, not as a Cincinnati fan, definitely as a Cincinnati fan, but because of his size, his shot stopping ability, and some of the decisions he's been making. Now he's been known not to make the best decisions at times. And would he have been slow on that same one Freeze came out on? That's something we criticized him for a few weeks ago. I don't know. I'd like to see a new face back there, because to me, again, Matt Freeze has been playing well for New York City, but I've not been super impressed with his play for the U.S. national team. We got a couple questions here, and then I want to get to some of the actual play time, not just the guys that were out there. Rupesh says, what's the point with Nathan Harriel? He's not even starting all the time for the Union. So getting him in there, Coach, back to your point, do we have the right guys? Or are we bringing in the guys that do the same things everybody else does? Do you want to speak to that, or have we already talked about that?
I think Rupesh nailed it. Like, this is a guy who we do not need to see in a U.S. jersey unless Poch lost a bet. Maybe Poch lost his, fantasy football draft and had to do one of those weird things. And I don't know, but like, why Nathan Harriel? I do not get that one at all.
Does anybody know if Joe Scally is injured from Mönchengladbach?
Yeah, I wondered where he was in this camp. Yeah.
That's
Out in
another
the cold.
That's another one. I mean, there's so many right backs that we could have looked down the line. Heck, anybody know if DeAndre Yedlin was interested in this?
Who knows, man? Who knows? Rupesh says, to the goalkeeper point, there's a coach somewhere else who said the only thing he likes about Celentano is his reflexes. Not good on getting crosses, and distribution is god awful. I don't know. I think his time in the air has gotten better, coming out, knocking crosses away. I think he's making some good decisions there. We don't need to go down that road. He thought it was Joe Lowry on the Total Soccer Show, is what he says.
I mean, I'm looking at the goalkeeper depth chart, and he's at 8th. According to ESPN, you're looking at the likes of Chris Brady for Chicago. Klinsmann is 9th, right ahead of Gaga Slonina, unfortunately. So there's a lot of players that could have made. Where's Patrick Schulte?
Yeah, why are we going to 8th and 9th then on the goalkeeper depth chart here?
I think we're going way too deep on that chart.
Yeah. He says Scally and Potts don't seem to be getting along either. So I don't know what the story is there or what truth is there, but that's what is reported to us. Let's get into a little bit of the play here, right? So I almost said Cincinnati. The U.S. men's national team was blanked, right? 2-0 against South Korea. It wasn't for lack of opportunities. What I did get to see of the game is they had opportunities in front of the goal. I think Berhalter rushed a shot, a volley that came out. We had Tim Weah kind of rushes one. Like, it looked like they weren't patient. The minutes that I saw when they had the ball in front of the goal, they didn't look like they were patient enough for a play to develop. It was like, I got a ball, I got to hit it. Is that, Coach, you saw the full 90 play out in real time. Is that what it felt like to you, or was there more to that story?
I don't know that it was patience. I think it was a lack of options. There were so many times when I looked up, like I saw the ball and the guy in the ball looked up and all of the forwards were kind of running into each other's space and everything was so crowded. But, certainly a guy like Berhalter's shot, you mentioned him, that I don't know if it's a patience thing or kind of like a wanting the glory thing. But when he hit that shot from probably 24, 25 yards, both Pulisic and Sargent were wide open in the box because Japan had just turned the ball over on the press. And if he just slides it to either one of them, they're shooting from 6 yards. So certainly that. I don't know. Tim Weah had a terrible game. So he came in on the right and he blasted a ball like so far over the goal that I don't think I could do it if I tried. Like, it was impressive. I don't think I could get that much elevation on a shot. So there were certainly things like that, but mostly I think there was just you talk about what we see day in and day out right now for FC Cincinnati. There was no chemistry, no discernible patterns of play. And there were forwards and midfielders running into each other's space. Diego Luna and Christian Pulisic could have held hands and skipped around the pitch for a lot of the game, and it would have looked about the same.
I think that really one of the things that threw the U.S. off was that this was a 5-4-1 formation to start for South Korea. That's a formation they have not used. They've used a lot of back four underneath their current coach. And so that might have clogged up the lanes a little bit in terms of putting a legitimate press or a legitimate attack. And not to mention, this team is not built for the press. Josh Sargent is not good at the press, unfortunately. So when it came to getting the ball out of the back, Korea saw the lanes and they were using the lanes that other teams have used too. If you take a look at, I think the Netherlands or Switzerland that they lost 4-0. The lanes were wide open when they were working out of the press. That's something that Poch unfortunately has to hammer through this team.
Yeah. Coach, I think we'll talk a little bit about the press coming up and talking tactics. So I want to save that for then. We got a comment from Jose here that I want to get to. He says, don't panic yet. Many teams look bad before World Cups and surprised everyone with their tournament performance. Like, for all of the flack that we've given Jose for his, Debbie Downer attitude about 1 goal wins in Cincinnati, this is the time that I want to believe Jose is maybe Poch is going this deep because he really trusts in who he has. My question is to your point, Coach, about the discernible patterns of play. Maybe we have better guys. Maybe he knows the 20 that he's going to bring in next year for the World Cup, and he trusts in those guys, but they have not seen the field together in a long, long time. And that's what worries me. Not that we don't have the players that can compete. We don't have the players that can compete playing together right now in this lead up to it. So I don't know that there's an opportunity that we do that. We see that, but man, that's what worries me going into this cup. Got another one from Mark Godsey. We'll get to that one here in just a little bit. Mark, thanks for that comment about Growler Cup. We'll address that a little bit later in the show. We do have a game coming up against Japan. Jeff, I know you have been probably following Japan more than the rest of us because you speak the language and the culture and all of that. What do you foresee in this game coming up that Japan's bringing to the table, and a good result against Mexico this last weekend?
Really good result. 0-0 against Mexico is nothing to sneeze at, especially when you're bringing the heat into the United States, where Mexico has traditionally brought a lot of strong crowds. So for them to get a 0-0 draw and to once again squeeze a red card out of Mexico, it means that they're getting in someone's head. The good thing about Japan is that they've had a long-term project with their head coach Hajime Moriyasu, who's been probably one of the longest tenures of all the country national teams out there. And also, you've got some really good midfield play leading up to some decent striker positions. I mean, Daichi Kamada, who plays for Crystal Palace, so that's why you also want to get Chris Richards in there, so familiarity. They've got some really good play in the middle there. They play like a concrete team. The good thing is that there might be some unfortunately some blemishes in the armor. I think one of their better one of their better players had to go back to Frankfurt to prep for the season. And one of their dependable center backs was out with an injury. So there's a good chance that I think you've got some opportunity to take advantage of Japan, but they play just so good as a no ego starting 11.
Yeah. Some of the players we haven't seen or maybe not seen a lot of yet. Coach, who are you looking forward to seeing potentially in this game if we really want to call Potch out and say, you want to see some new guys, here's who we want to see?
Yeah, I mean, I will echo, this isn't a new guy, but like guys like Richards, I would like to see some of those partnerships, guys that we know are like nailed on starters, like we have to have out there to succeed. Like you're not going to not play Christian Pulisic. You should play, Chris Richards. That's the core of your team, those kinds of guys that are going to be out there. But I'd like to get away some of these guys that have this moniker of Potch's guys that just aren't that good, at least on the international stage. Get away from Arfston, get away from Berhalter, these kinds of guys. Give me for sure a Noah Kai Banks in the middle, him and Richards. Give me Christian Roldan and give me Zendejas. I want those three guys. Those three guys are all guys that I think could actually have something to offer the team. Talk about a new old guy, Roldan. We've seen him before. He seems like he's been around forever, but he is a guy who's played really well against some high competition of late. You need a guy to be a leader out there in midfield. Let's see if Roldan has it. Let's see if he can do that job. Sit old man Ream on the bench and get some young center backs out there that can defend in space.
Yeah, I hate that I agree with that. I feel like I've seen enough of Christian Roldan probably 7 or 8 years ago when he was out there. But to have someone that knows what they're doing, that's playing at a high level, I hate that I agree with that take.
As far as who I want to see, I want to see definitely Chris Richards playing. If it's a matter of him not being healthy, then okay, bring him off, after 45 minutes. But I want to see him start with Ream and see what we can get out of that. Give me Luca De La Torre as well. He didn't play a single minute of the game against South Korea. I don't know if it's he's holding him for the Japan game or what have you. But I want to see at least those two play, and then let's see Balogun up top. I mean, if the Jarch Sargent experiment only works when he's in Europe, then let's see what Balogun can give you for 60 minutes.
Yeah, I agree with that take, and I don't hate it as much as I hated agreeing with the last take. So for sure. I want to move into talking tactics here, but first we want to thank our second half show sponsor, Beyond Exercise. They're a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury-free. They've helped some of our local MLS, MLS Next, and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs. Check out their suite of services at gobeyondexercise.com. Now, Coach, I want to turn it over to you. We've kind of talked about the press a little bit, formation a little bit. What you got for us for talking tactics?
So I want to talk about what this U.S. men's national team struggled with against South Korea big time defensively, but I want to draw a good parallel with FC Cincinnati, since that's really why we're all here, most times to talk about FCC. And I think the struggles are the same. And I'm going to talk about getting pressure to the ball. So not necessarily high press, but just getting pressure to the ball in each third of the field. So one of the things you have to do is you have to know when to press, get pressure to the ball in the right way. And when there is no pressure, you have to know what your center backs, what your midfield are doing when there is no pressure on the ball. So when the ball is in the attacking third, so like the other team has it in their defensive third, they're building out. If you are going to press the ball there, you need to do two things. Number one, you need to get your angle of pressure right. So a guy just running at the ball to press it is no good, because if they can bypass that press with one pass, that guy is now out of the play, right? So you have to take a look and you have to put your angle of pressure to where you are cutting off a passing lane as you press the ball. That's one of the things Josh Sargent is really bad at. For whatever reason, he has no spatial awareness behind him. He just kind of runs at the ball and hopes for the best, right? The second thing is, if that angle of pressure is not right, then your midfield needs to compensate for that by pressing higher, but your center backs need to be sideways on and be ready to be backtracking, because as soon as that press is bypassed and you're in the middle third, if there's not going to be any pressure on the ball because you guys all ran up the field to press the ball, right? So let's get to the middle third of the field. So the middle third of the field, you have to get pressure to the ball in a way that allows your center backs to also compress space. So you have to be close enough to the ball to where they can't play it over you, basically. But you don't necessarily want to be right up on the ball unless they make a mistake, because again, they take a touch to the side or they dribble by you, they make a 1-2 pass, and you're out of the play. So you want to be, let's just say randomly, like 5 yards from the ball. That's your pressure. They can't kick that ball over your head, but you are getting pressure to the ball. And again, if that pressure is not there, now your center backs have to get what I call sideways on. So you turn sideways to the pitch so you can move forward or backward. And you should already be starting to drop in space. As a center back, you don't have the luxury, if that midfielder has time and space on the ball, to go try to mark a forward checking to the ball. Because as we saw in South Korea's first goal, Blackman stepped up to the forward or like the attacking midfielder who had kind of found space, and Son just ran in behind. And there's always going to be a forward or a midfielder or a winger making that run if, as a center back, you step forward when there's no pressure on the ball. So you got to get pressure of ball in the middle third. And then in the defensive third, the name of the game is getting pressure to the ball and keeping space tight, because there's no way to drop off anymore, right? There's no like, oh, you don't have pressure on the ball, you just need to drop off and play more defensively. If you don't have pressure on the ball there, they're getting a shot. So you have to get good, quick pressure to the ball, and everybody has to keep that space tight. You can't decide, I'm going to leave this guy for 2 yards of space because there's no pressure on the ball there, and I'm worried that it's going in behind me. So you have to have defenders that are comfortable being tight on that forward and dropping quickly, like the 3 or 4 yards they need to get on the end of like a little slotted through ball. FC Cincinnati struggles with this a lot right now. I think mostly with that forward line pressing. So often guys like Evander will run at the ball and just get bypassed with a quick 1-2, or even players just dribbling, just taking a touch and dribbling past them as they run at the ball. And then the midfielders are trying to press up to compensate for that. Center backs, especially without Robinson, are not quick enough then to hold that space. So they either have to start dropping off and give all the space in front of them, or they often try to hold that line and rely on that speed and they get beat over the top. So I think this is something I would like to see better for the U.S. against Japan, and I'd like to see it a whole lot better for FC Cincinnati as they pick the season back up.
I will add something in real quick. The thing is that Japan will love it if you take 60% of the possession. They are comfortable sitting back, biding their time, and then hitting you with a counterattack, picking you off at midfield, and then making you pay if you're not prepared for the onrush of a 5-on-4. That being said, if you want to do to Japan what they want to do to you, try a counterattack. Try to hold back a little bit and then prepare for a speed attack against Japan. They're not prepared for that either. So this might be a game where whoever has the least amount of possession might actually be holding the beneficial aspect of it.
Yeah. Coach, so you answered my first question as far as where do you think that breaks down for FC Cincinnati and you said the first line of defense. One thing we saw and we talked about in seasons past with another number 10 that we had was the way he led the press and seemed to do it well, cutting off a passing lane and then running at the center back or the goalkeeper with pace to force them to make a pass one direction. What changes that? If we can shift to FC Cincinnati for a minute, what changes that? Is Evander just not the guy to be leading the press, or can he change his style to be better there? Does he not have the speed? Like, what is it, and what can Cincinnati change to fix that?
When they brought Evander on, that's like the first thing I said is like the press is going to have to change. He can't do it like Lucho did, and I caught a little flack for that. But I think that's borne out. In my opinion, it's not that Evander can't do it. He doesn't not have the skill set, but it's not something he's been asked to do very often. And if I was the coach, I'm not going to try to keep ramming that square peg in that round hole. What I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the way we press, right? I'll probably press more out of a mid block, let them have the ball in their defensive third, and set that line of confrontation more at the edge of the middle third. That way there's more, the field's a little more compact, and I can get Evander dropping back into space and then kind of setting himself and figuring out where to go from there, which we've seen FC Cincinnati do a little bit at times. But it's kind of like 50-50. Half the time they press high, and I think they're relying on pressing cues that I think sometimes are there, and it happens, like a ball out to a left center back or something that like that's the guy we want to press and it goes. But if Evander is that guy leading the press, You have to understand he's not going to do it that effectively. So it doesn't mean it can't work. You just have to build that around. It's like, okay, well then the midfielder on that side, hopefully Buka, you're going to press into that space he's vacating. But Anunga, don't even press. Don't press up on that other midfielder. If they can break lines of that midfielder, we'll let him have the ball. You drop so that we don't get beat into the space right in front of the back four. We'll adjust if they break pressure through the middle to the guy you were going to be marking. You don't press everybody up. You start to drop players off knowing that first line of press might get bypassed.
Yeah. And we saw, and I forget what game it was. It wasn't Charlotte. Who did we play after Charlotte? I'm trying to remember. Philadelphia.
Yeah.
It was a Philadelphia match. We talked about how good they were in space, and looked like when Cincinnati was trying to press high, they were just chasing. They weren't holding position. They were chasing, which as they chased the ball, opened up other passing lanes that weren't there just a second ago, because we're ball watching or we're ball chasing instead of pressing as we should. It didn't happen the whole game, but I remember that was one of our conversations a few weeks ago after the Philly match. So, all right. So we've got, fixing the press for Cincinnati, fixing the press for U.S. men's national team. We're hoping for the best on Tuesday against Japan, a good Japan team that again took Mexico down to the wire, 0-0 draw, and a red card too, right, Jeff? Is that?
It was closer to the end of the game. I think both teams were like, okay, let's just pack it in where a 0-0 result is going to be good. But getting that red card is still important.
Yeah. Let's shift a little bit to FC Cincinnati and upcoming match against Nashville this next week. And so Jeff, I know jersey swap works with, you're doing some interviews and stuff, but I know you've got one coming up with someone from Nashville. What do you know about Nashville? How are you preparing for your jersey swap episode? And what do you want to see? What do you want to know about Nashville as you interview? Is it Dan? Is that what you said?
Wes Bowling, actually.
Wes,
we managed to get him from Club and Country, a longtime friend of the show. What I want to sort of ask about is, if you look at what Nashville's done over the year, they didn't do really anything in this transfer market. I don't believe brought any new talent in. They let one guy go on loan, I think, to Rhode Island, and that's about it. So there's a lot of dependent on the talent they already have. And if you look at the talent they already have right now, it's only Mukhtar and Surge. They've scored 19 of the last 22 goals in their last 14 games. If you have 0 transfers during the window and not beefing up your attack, depending on attack options that have not produced for you, I think the third most goals scored is 2. I'm going to ask him what confidence does he have in Nashville going further than third place right now.
And that recording's coming up later this week, Wednesday, Thursday, I believe. Should be out.
You can set your watch to it. That's for sure.
All right. Very good. Very good. So look for that episode of Jersey Swap coming out later this week with Wes Bowling. Coach, as you look at Nashville coming in, they're not coming in super hot right now, but they are coming into TQL Stadium, where Cincinnati is not super hot right now as well. What are you looking for? What are you expecting out of that match?
Man, I think this is the perfect team for FC Cincinnati to be playing right now. Not if you are an FC Cincinnati fan that just wants a get-right game, like go out and crush somebody, because that is not going to happen. But Nashville is limping in. They've only won 1 out of their last 5, and they kicked the crap out of Orlando, but it was a Saturday match in between 2 midweek Leagues Cup matches in the knockout round. So Orlando was clearly focused on them, didn't start their first string 11. So take that with a grain of salt. However, Nashville is not giving up a bunch of chances. Their non-penalty XG allowed and 4 is pretty even, especially on the road. So what you're going to see probably at TQL is a lot of what you saw in the last 3 matches: NYCFC, Philadelphia Union, and Charlotte. You're going to see a team that's pretty defensively sound, looking to capitalize on 1 or 2 chances and see if they can get out for a win. The reason why I say that is perfect for FC Cincinnati is because the book is out on them. you can do that to them, especially in their home stadium, because as we've seen, they don't have definable patterns of play. So they don't have any way of breaking down a low block. It's an Evander Wander goal, or it's nothing in those situations. And now Pat Noonan has had some chances to work with his team. He's got these new players, Brenner. He's got Dom in on the right to serve in some balls, some different looks with Orshano on the left, having two attacking wing backs. So now is the chance to start to figure these things out. So I'm actually really looking forward to see this match and to see if we start to see like, I think I've seen that pass 2 or 3 times now. Maybe this is a definable pattern of play.
It's interesting how we were told like our bench is really thin. We don't have really the ability to go 90 because we know whoever we bring off the bench isn't going to score for us. Nashville's got that problem too. Teal Bunbury is not going to score golazos for you in the 85th minute. So honestly, we've got the better bench. We should be able to take advantage of that late in this game.
Yeah, something we're looking forward to this season, getting Cincinnati back out on the field, hoping for their first win at TQL in their last 4 matches or so, and looking forward to your jersey swap episode later this week to see what West Bowling has to say about this matchup and about Nashville in general. Guys, we want to shift a little bit. We talked about we'll come back to the Leagues Cup punishment. That was kind of the worst for a lot of people. And I want to touch on that a little bit because Major League Soccer had been quiet for a while, waiting to see what the Leagues Cup punishment was going to be for guys like Suarez and Busquets and, Falcone and the coach or the trainer from Seattle, like what's going to play out. And now they were served some suspensions, 6 games, I believe, Suarez got in Leagues Cup play. So whatever that means next year, if he's around playing in Leagues Cup, who knows? Maybe that was just a nothing suspension. I don't know what that's going to play out. MLS did bring down some punishment, some disciplinary actions just today or yesterday, I believe. And Suarez gets 3 regular season MLS matches. So the next 3, which unfortunately we don't get to see him play against Seattle coming up next week. Would have been a fun one. So Suarez gets 3. Steven Lenhart, the Seattle's staff, has lost his credentials. Is that for the remainder of the season? I don't know what his involvement was. That seems fairly harsh to me, but I don't know what his involvement was. And then
he is the team psychologist who got involved in the scrum on the field because as a legendary MLS player, he was known to do that from time to time. So I think he forgot that he was part of the backroom staff for a minute.
A team psychologist losing his head on the pitch. It feels like the story writes itself right there.
Yes. Yeah. And then the Sounders have been fined for their misappropriation of credentials, whatever there. You know who's not on this list? Sergio Busquets. I just said his name earlier and I'm blanking. Falcone.
Thomas Aviles got nothing.
Yeah, Thomas Aviles gets nothing. Falcone, that like clearly as you're seeing the scrum happening, all right, and guys are pushing each other around. All you see happening for a minute or two is Falcone ripping a guy's head and just dragging him out of the scrum. How do you not get something for that? Like, isn't a headlock in a match like suspension immediately? I'm shocked by what's happening.
And it wasn't, you can't even hide behind like, well, I was just trying to pull him off of the other guy because he had him in a full headlock, head around the throat. All he had to do was grab his forearm and do like the sleeper hold to complete it. It was basically that. Last week when we talked about this, he's the guy I picked up because, even the punches, like you see that from time to time, like the sheer cowardice of grabbing somebody around the throat from behind and dragging him away. Like I thought that might have been the worst of the bunch. Although how do you define spitting on a guy, sucker punching a 20-year-old? That was Busquets. Running in from like 20 yards away and trying to throw a haymaker. That was Aviles. I mean, there's like these guys were deplorable. And so the fact that MLS does what is the bare minimum, in my opinion, there was so much press about Luis Suarez spitting on an old man that they had to suspend him. And I believe if there wasn't that much press, they wouldn't have even done that. This league is full of cowards at the top. They will cow to Messi and to David Beckham whenever they have the chance because they are afraid. They are petrified that Messi will take his friends and pick up his ball and go home.
I would actually say that MLS is doing Miami a favor. I mean, we mentioned that Seattle has a game in Miami in a few weeks. It's a makeup game. Can you imagine if Suarez was in that game, how many ankles would be destroyed by Seattle? There would be bodies littered all over the pitch. And I'm not saying what bodies, I'm saying that there would be so many suspensions after that game. There might still be. I feel that Seattle is probably going in there like, oh, okay, let's do it again. We can beat you 3-0 in Miami as well.
Yeah.
The only guy on Seattle I think would do that is Nuhu, because I have so much respect for Brian Schmetzer. I bet he's got that team on a rope, and I bet he's got them focused in. Look at the fact that none of them threw punches back, at least that I saw watching those videos. They were guys getting punched, and they were not going and swinging or throwing punches back. Their team psychologist was like the worst of the bunch, right? So I think, Schmetzer has that team well disciplined, and I hope they just beat them fair and square. If they get maybe an elbow to the ribs in there, I wouldn't cry about either. But
yeah, it's amazing to see Brian Schmetzer, his philosophy in terms of how he coaches his team. And then you're looking at Javier Mascherano yelling into his iPhone, dictating from the stands what his assistant coach should do up against Orlando in the semifinals. So two different coaches on two different levels of coachery.
Coach, you talked about the level of press that Suarez spitting on a guy got. I think it takes me back. I should have somehow found a way to put your clip out there last week when you talked about Falcone dragging a guy off the field like he's going to wear him for a winter coat. That has stuck with me all week, and that imagery I can't get out of my head. We should have played that more and more. Maybe MLS would have come down a little bit harder on Miami, or at least Falcone in this one.
They might come down hard on us. Don't make us look bad.
They might. Just love the analogy, and the spitting on your gym coach, your high school PE teacher. I think is something you said last week that. Man, that imagery has been great. What a fun one last week. This week as well, guys, we're getting close to the end here. We did promise we would get into some predictions, first round of MLS playoffs. And I don't know that we got time to go too deep in this, but as it sits right now, this is where it is now. Philly at number 1 playing New York City at 8, or Chicago at 9. And then New York Red Bulls is still in there at number 10, potentially find their way in. Cincinnati sitting at number 2 against guess who? Columbus at number 7. Charlotte 3 versus Miami at 6. Nashville at 4 versus Orlando at 5. That's the Eastern Conference. Let's kind of hold there since we're limited on time. Is this how you see it playing out? Like, this is how it sits now. Do you think New York Red Bull sneaks in? Do you think Cincinnati drops a little bit? Or would you rather see them play Columbus in that first round best of 3?
I would like to see all of these matchups sort of stay where they are. I mean, you're talking about MLS wanting as much press as possible. Having Cincinnati, Columbus, Charlotte, Miami, Nashville, Orlando, all these rivalries in the first round, this is a bank statement for them. I mean, all these are also 2 out of 3. So you're going to have at least 2 games between these matchups. Further from there, we'll see. I think Charlotte's probably going to go a little further up there. They got so much momentum right now, so good on defense. Kalina is standing on his head again and in goal. I think they're probably going to end up passing us eventually. Who knows if they get past Philly? But right now, Philly's just unreachable.
Yeah, it's something to keep in mind as NYCFC has a game in hand over Columbus. So if Columbus doesn't figure things out, even if they do figure things out, NYC could pass them for that 7th spot. You expect Miami with all those games in hand to raise up the charts a little bit too. So I think things will get changed, chopped and changed. If you're looking at the East, though, it is a buzzsaw. Like, who wants to face any of these teams in a best of 3? If I'm being honest, like, I'm praying for Chicago to somehow climb into a spot where we get them for the best of 3, and even that doesn't feel great. The only thing you can take heart in is there are going to be, if you can get through that first round, there's going to be some really good teams that have already been eliminated.
Yeah. Nobody has an easy path in the Eastern Conference. We could argue the Western Conference may be a little lax, little less than, not lax, but less than Eastern Conference potentially. But you've got LAFC sitting at 5. They're playing well. And with the addition of Sun, for sure they're gonna compete. Seattle's playing well right now. Vancouver sitting at 3. San Diego, surprise, shocker, at 1. I think these playoffs are going to be fun to watch. I don't know as a Cincinnati fan that I want to see us play Columbus best of 3. It would be fun. They'd be fun games, but I think I'd rather see us play, like you said, Chicago. Maybe if we drop to 3 and play Miami, I don't know. Columbus, because of the rivalry, MLS loves that there's going to be best of 3 games there, but man, I don't know, a rivalry match, best of 3. I don't know that I want to see that. We'll see. We'll see it play out here real soon. I do want to get back to, as we wrap up the show here, before we get to our final thoughts, Mark Godsey asked about the Growler Cup, and just a moment of transparency, Mark, and those of you who are on Patreon that have participated in the Growler Cup. It's something that has fallen off the radar of our Cincinnati Soccer Talk team because those who had been running it have not been as involved here late in the season. We hope to get that back going. As the season rolls on. We've got a few matches left, but we're trying to see who has capacity and how we do that. We don't want that to fall off. We do appreciate the support over on Patreon, and we know that the Growler Cup has been a big part of that. And so we do appreciate the question. We appreciate the feedback. And if you've got other questions for us at Cincinnati Soccer Talk, let us know. Feedback at Cincinnati Soccer Talk is the email. And just send us a note. And thank you for, again, bringing that up tonight, Mark. And if you got questions, let us know. We'd be happy to answer off air. More than that. Final thoughts, guys, as we wrap up the show. Coach, I'll throw it to you to kick us off.
Yeah, for my final thoughts, I'm really looking forward to this stretch run and seeing if Noonan can develop some chemistry, get these guys starting to develop some chemistry with these new players. Now that he's got like Dom Markzuk and Brenner, and Orishano is coming back to health, like this could be a really good attack. They just need a little guidance. I'm sure they had 2 weeks to get on the same page, and you were missing some big pieces, right? Roman, Kevin Denke, Kai as a guy off the bench, and then a few pieces like Gidi that we kind of hope gets into camp and does something, but we don't know for sure. But that meant you still had 2 weeks to work with Brenner, Evander, Markzuk, Buka, Orishano, a lot of big pieces. And I'm just hoping that I keep wanting to say Pochettino. You got me talking U.S. men's national team. But I just hope Noonan and Kenny Arena have these guys doing drag shows and trust falls and singing Kumbaya and I don't know, whatever else you do to try to get team chemistry, because this could be really fun if they even just get almost on the same page.
Yeah, no doubt. For sure. Coach, thanks for joining us tonight. Jeff, final thoughts?
Yeah, just thanks to everybody that listens to and follows Jersey Swap. We had a really good discussion with Dan Orlowitz over the weekend talking about the U.S. national team and Japan game. We have, once again, West Bowling coming up. I do want to just shift gears real quick, and just our cat recently has been diagnosed with feline diabetes. So he's been in our mind more than anything. I think our pets are people too sometimes in our minds. And so just want to let everybody know, love your pets. Don't abandon them. And if you do find any that are abandoned, go to an alley cat rescue and have that cat have a second chance at life. Just think about your pets. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Do you like dogs, Jeff? Because I got a couple that you could.
We've had a few good rescues in our extended family, but for our small house, a cat is just perfect.
Yeah,
our cat Gary. How about that?
Gary the cat. Awesome. Yeah. Well, for sure, love on your pets, and that's convicting to me as I struggle with my yappy, annoying dogs right now. So thanks for that, Jeff. I just want to wrap up. It's been a nice little break at times, without a Cincinnati game. I had some time to spend with family, not in front of the TV watching FC Cincinnati like I do like a psycho every Saturday night that they play. Looking forward to them being back in action. But more than anything, I've had a chance to, with Fort Wayne Footy and some of my, connections with USL, just appreciate soccer culture on a bigger scale than just FC Cincinnati, which is big enough. but just the love that people have for the game of soccer in different pockets of this country has been really fun. And then just to kind of round out, maybe a second final thought, it's been fun doing a show with the two of you guys. We got Jersey Swap talking tactics and, Cincinnati Soccer Talk here represented. So it's been a lot of fun. Thanks for joining us here on Cincinnati Soccer Talk this Monday night. We will talk to you next week.
Keep it kick clean.